Good morning. Welcome to Garden America. Yes, a little bit late, couple of minutes late here with last-minute technical difficulties here in the studio. But thanks to Tiger, we are back up and running here on Garden America. Welcome to the weekend. Facebook Live, all of you on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for tuning in. By the way, those on Biz Talk Radio, this is last week's show, pre-recorded. Have to get that out of the way for the FCC. Anyway, back in the studio, Tiger is back. I'm Brian. We've got John Bagnaska. We've got your viewership right here on Facebook Live, and we do appreciate that. Tiger, welcome back. John, are you still confused?
No, I was looking to see what you were wearing.
Oh, to make sure that it's the same show as today and not last week?
Yeah.
That's a good way to figure it out, isn't it? Anyway, welcome back, Tiger. You were in Flagstaff, Arizona last week. We had Daniel in studio. Had a good show. Today we're going to be talking to a pond guy and all kinds of other things.
I chose to take a trip during one of the worst weather times ever. Like when I left San Diego, it was raining and thunderstorms all the drive out. I actually arrived kind of near El Centro, and I went to go stop for gas, and no gas stations were functioning.
What? Because
it had rained so hard there. You know when it rains so hard that they get concerned that water goes into their tanks?
Yeah.
Right.
Every gas station on this street was shut down because water had gotten into their tanks because it had rained so hard.
Well, that sounds like a glitch in the system. Too much rain, no gas.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then I was down this mountain pass. Boulders were coming down the mountain. I didn't see it happen, but as I was driving by, there was a boulder the size of like a VW bug that had just came down the mountain and was sitting not in my lane, but the lane across, the second lane, right there. It was just sitting in a crater it had created.
And I was like, fortunately, I guess nobody was injured. No animals were harmed in the making of your trip.
Yeah, but it was crazy. It was a crazy
Well, welcome
drive.
back to the studio.
Yeah, much safer here.
Yeah, welcome those on Facebook Live. Biz Talk Radio, our good friends across the country. John Bagnaska is here. Not quite as funny as he was last week, but he's working on it. You were on fire last week.
Well, you know, the shows are all recorded.
Yes.
So
we are recording right now, as a matter of fact.
Right. So if you think that this week is boring, go back and watch last week.
Right.
It was a lot of fun.
You can go to our website, gardenamerica.com. You can go to YouTube.
I think during the break I might switch to last week's show.
Just to entertain yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were good last week. I give you A minus. So far this week, you're working on a C minus.
I think that all of last week, though, was behind the scenes. You seem to think that it was on air, but
you were pretty funny off camera, off mic. So that said, let's go to John first of all. The weather has broken here in Southern California. It's not 100 degrees. It's more like, it's funny how 85 or 88 seems cool. You know, when you've had temps in the 90s and low 100s.
Well, yeah, our temperature's been in the high 70s this last few days. And
nice.
It's amazing how much different the plants look.
Yes.
My cashmere cypress, which looked hot and stressed the previous 2 weeks, now all of a sudden has blue tips.
Right.
Just looks awesome.
Oh, it's an indicator heat plant.
Indicator growth plant.
You mean a heat indicator plant?
A heat indicator. Hey, I'm still warming up. Sometimes it's hard to get the words out, but I'm working on it. Let's see. Black Bug's Blood, The Sheep is Sick, and Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers. Okay, I'm good to go.
What about Toy Boat?
Toy Boat. I'm good to go. I have to do that before the auction, too. I got to warm up.
What about... I shouldn't say.
Look, he's just like a little giddy.
Yeah, he is.
Well, I was going to say,
he's
what
super
about...
excited.
You're the only one that'll appreciate it, but what about Helena Bonham Carter?
Do you like her as an actress?
She's different.
She is different.
Yeah.
So welcome, Facebook Live. Don't forget, questions, comments. We've got a good morning from Pakistan. Thank you for tuning in. Lenore's up there. Carla's up there waiting to go. Dana's up there.
I brought in a picture of, well, actually, I wrote an article on the plumeria that I bought at the Plumeria show last week.
And Tiger's holding it up to the camera because we want our Facebook people to guess what this is.
Well, we already told them.
Do they remember?
I hope so. But, yeah, there's a picture. That's a plumeria that's endemic to Cuba.
Or Cuba.
Or Cuba. Either one.
Could be.
It's called Plumeria filifolia. And
That sounds made up.
Full
Philofolia.
of folia.
Yeah, you're
Well,
full,
it's
you're
full
full
of
of folia
folia.
is what you
Yeah.
are.
Well, Phyllis, or not Phyllis, I'm
Philofolia.
trying to think.
Folia
well, the
means
first
foliage.
part, folia is foliage. The first part is thread. It's where the Latin word, the Latin word for thread is where filament comes.
Yeah,
comes
filament.
from.
Okay,
Right.
like a light.
So you could call it a thread leaf plumeria.
Yeah.
And I just liked the way that it looked. It was I put a picture in the newsletter of the two that I bought, which I think you'd have to agree are kind of sad looking.
Yeah.
That picture looks like it was taken back in the 70s. It looks like some old picture you took.
This was taken back in the 70s, that picture.
No, this picture that we just showed, or
Right.
the two in the newsletter?
The one that we just showed.
The one in okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This was attached to the plant that I bought.
Yeah, the guy took it.
Because
the grower took it back in the 70s.
This is way better than the plant
yeah,
that I bought.
exactly.
Speaking of the newsletter, you can go to our website, gardenamerica.com, and sign up for the newsletter. Why wouldn't you?
Get lots of good information.
Absolutely.
Find out about plants.
And you get kind of a sneak peek of the upcoming show, who the guest is going to be. John's got award-winning articles. He's up for another award.
Yeah?
Yeah. We can't mention it right now
No?
because we have to wait till things settle
It wasn't
into
the
place.
Emmys.
What's that?
It wasn't an Emmy.
How
that
about
already
no
happened.
ratings? Right?
Pulitzer.
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You thought that Nobel thing or
Well,
Nobel
thanks for
thing
the
was
nice
going to
words,
happen.
Carla. Carla says that she enjoyed the plumeria article, that she thought it was funny and sweet.
Well, that is funny with John because he will go to a plant spot, nursery, website, and find the most obscure plant. And that's the one he wants.
Absurd as well.
Absurd and obscure.
Well, I wasn't. Saturday was a 2-day show, and I was there on Sunday. So Saturday's where all the collectors went. They're all there at 7 o'clock in
Yeah.
line to
Sure.
find the.
The nerds, the real nerds.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. That's pretty unique. to still
Yeah,
be
but it was
left.
the only one left.
Oh, so you think he had some other ones that looked better, maybe?
Either
sold
that,
on
and then
Saturday.
I start thinking, well, what else was here that I don't
You
even
missed?
see that I missed?
Ah.
But anyway, it was nice to get two plants, and it was nice to learn about this plumeria. I had honestly never heard of it.
No.
And now the other one that's in the newsletter is the evergreen variety.
It's an evergreen one.
That's pretty cool.
It's Plumeria pudica,
Yeah.
and pudica, the leaves on it they're referred to as either spoon-shaped or cobra head-shaped,
Yeah.
and that has more of the traditional plumeria flowers too, but not fragrant.
What are you, some kind of pudica? Hey, we want to hit John's quote of the week here. We've got, let's see, well, we're a couple of minutes away from our first break. We do have time, but I want to get to John's quote and then discuss our upcoming guest, Tiger. We'll be talking about ponds. Was he the pond whisperer? How did you refer to him?
Pond professor.
The pond professor.
Yeah. Good old Ed Beaulieu.
Boileau.
Are you asking me?
Beaulieu?
It looks like Boileau.
Oh, we'll ask Ed.
Ed Beaulieu.
Yeah.
That'll be the first question.
So the quote of the week, Brian, is from Hal Borland. We've had quotes from him in the past. He's a
We have.
garden writer.
Right.
Yeah. He said that September is more than a month, really. It's a season, an achievement in itself. It begins with August's leftovers and it ends with October's preparations. But along the way, it achieves special satisfaction.
This is that in-between month, kind of like, shaking
Yeah.
off the tail end of summer and then looking at, fall, autumn right there, right around the corner.
Yeah. If you're in Arizona, it's your spring. That's the big season for them. The rest of the country gets ready for planting in March. They're ready for planting now.
Well,
Absolutely.
and I was in Flagstaff and I was listening to a podcast. I like to listen to podcasts about places that I'm going to when I'm going there.
How did you find that one?
Oh, you just go on
What, a
Spotify
podcast
or
about
whatever.
Flagstaff?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have a whole list of stuff. And they were saying that in Flagstaff, their spring flowers are like now because they get the monsoon rains, which cause them to now bloom and the weather is nice, like you're saying. And so everybody thinks there's spring flowers are in spring when spring there is hot and dry. But now is the time of year that you go
Well,
for
it's
the
also
flowers.
short.
Yeah.
So if you're planting in spring, it's not that long before temperatures are into the hundreds.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got about a minute here. We'll be discussing about ponds, I imagine
Well,
that focuses in on a lot of things, right?
Well, we're going to be focusing on a lot of things, but I think, one of the big things right now, people are talking about drought, right? And instantly ponds get thrown out the window because they feel those are water wasters.
It's a sustainable drought, right, John?
But no, we're going to be talking
My
with
favorite
Ed
word.
about ponds, and there's a lot of options right now. I mean, in some of these are options for capturing and filtering rainwater.
Okay.
Some of them are pondless, so lots of great options for ponds, even in a drought.
Okay, that said, Tiger set it up. We're going to be getting a hold of our guest here momentarily. For those on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for tuning in. We're going to take a break, and you can listen to our great sponsors who support Biz Talk Radio and also support Garden America. Welcome back. We hope you had a good week into the weekend. This is Garden America. I'm Brian Main, John Begnesker, Tiger Palafox, taking a break. Back after these wonderful messages from our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we are back. It is your Saturday morning, unless you're listening to this pre-recorded show. Then it could be anytime, be digital, be streaming. Who knows? Could be a Facebook Live. It could be our YouTube channel. Right now, though, it could be and will be our guest, Ed, who was waiting to go this morning, Tiger. Welcome to Garden America.
Ed, welcome to Garden America. Hope you're doing well. Before we get started, Ed, I don't want to butcher anything, and we were having a discussion. How do you say your last name?
My last name is pronounced Beaulieu.
Beaulieu.
Okay.
Ah,
Correct.
like
All right.
cat.
I think that's what I kind of said.
Exactly. Not many people know that one.
Ed Beaulieu, we've got that right. Let's hope we continue pronouncing it correctly, Tiger, throughout the interview.
Yeah, so this morning we're going to be chatting with the pond professor, Ed Beaulieu, who specializes in helping people design, build, maintain, create their ponds, no matter where you're at. Because, Ed, you guys, I've been seeing you not just regional, you go all over with ponds, all over the country, right?
That's correct, actually. So I'm based out of Chicago, and I just returned from a project down in Central Florida, just outside of Orlando, at the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Garden. So we were doing a project for radiated tortoises.
Wow. So you guys were actually creating a pond for specific animals. Wow, that must be so stressful. Do you know anything about these tortoises before you went down there?
Yeah, I actually have done, oddly enough, a couple other radiated tortoise projects in the past. So I was familiar with the species. And my background, I have been an animal lover my entire life. I have a degree in zoology, so I'm familiar with a wide variety of different animals, and I actually have a mini farm at my personal home with turtles, dogs, cats, goats, chickens, horses, donkeys.
Oh,
I've got a
wow.
lot of stuff at home. Yeah.
So you definitely know what you can and cannot do with a pond in terms of animals.
Absolutely.
I want micro mini donkeys.
They are pretty cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
I have a mini donkey. It's not a micro mini. He is a mini one, but yeah, he's a character, that's for sure.
I thought you wanted a hedgehog, John.
He wants
Well,
it all.
that's even smaller than a micro mini donkey.
Okay,
But
all right.
but I really would like one. I heard they had great temperaments, but I also heard that you can't have just one. Is that true?
So correct. So most animals, so goats and horses and things like, they're herd animals.
Right.
So if they're left on their own, it is very stressful to them. So yeah, we have a mini donkey and two mini horses. So that's kind of their own little herd. And then we have a cat that lives outside with them, and the cat's actually part of their group as well.
Ah.
Yeah, it's funny how animals would just adopt
Yeah,
other animals
right.
into their environment.
Tiger, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but one of our listeners, Hastam in Pakistan, wants to find out some of the best plants to put in ponds. So
Oh.
I just wanted to bring that up and let Hastam know that we would be talking about that probably.
Yeah, definitely we will. And I mean, but first let's kind of introduce Ed a little bit more. Now, Ed, we just ran right into this interview with wonderful animal knowledge and the project you've just been working on. But you have a long history with ponds, as you kind of hinted at right now, and you work with, is it Aquascapes?
That is correct. Aquascape Incorporated out of St. Charles. And I have been with Aquascape since 1993, so I'm coming up on my 30th year there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's spectacular. And Aquascapes, they have all the products, the equipment, the additives for ponds, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So back when I started with them, in those early years in the 90s, there was not a lot of information available. I mean, you can go to the library. People don't really do that as much anymore, but you can go to the library and find some information on water gardening and things like that. Most of the information was coming from Europe, specifically more England, where water gardens have been very popular for hundreds of years. But in the United States, it was still kind of relatively new. So what we realized quickly was there was not a lot of, not only not a lot of information, but not a lot of products available either. So what we started doing was creating our own things. We were just a design build firm. So we started creating our own filtering systems, using literally trash cans, things we buy at Home Depot and stuff like that. And we started modifying them. And then eventually we started getting more and more demand. So we started talking to small-scale manufacturing facilities here in the Chicagoland area to specifically make products for us. And then from there, we started, people would ask if they could just buy the pieces and not necessarily the installation. And that's really how we started, back in the 90s, started manufacturing our own products that we tested out in the field.
That's a great story. And I mean, I remember kind of seeing your products come onto the market, and what a great way to be able to kind of package. You guys would actually put together a whole package and be like, here's the liner, here's the padding, here's the filtration system, here's the pumps, here's the tubing, and here's kind of how to. And a lot of people then just ran with it themselves. I know that you also taught local contractors on the ins and outs so they would do it well. But lots of experience with that. And, being the pond professor, it kind of sounds like you've got a lot of knowledge on solving problems when it comes to ponds, yeah?
Yes. I think that comes with the territory. Anytime you do something for 30 years, you're bound to run into a wide, and I mean a very wide range of challenges, problems, things that pop up. You have to make modifications in order to make a project succeed. So because of just my all the different projects I've done all over the world, I've come into those things. So now I try to teach people, give them some of those tips and tricks and shortcuts so they could have a greater success, and they don't have to go through the struggles that we went through back in the early days.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was lots of in and outs. I've seen some ponds be put together, and getting the water to fall just right, getting the water to flow downhill sometimes is a challenge within itself, let alone trying to keep the water filtered and clean and plants alive in it. So, aside from just the life that you put into a pond, sometimes just getting it to flow correctly is a challenge within itself.
Absolutely.
Hey, we have about like a minute left.
Minute and a half,
So I did want to leave. We're going to have to take a break in a minute, Ed. But when we get back from break, with was it Hassam's question?
Right.
Actually,
has a couple questions.
He's got a follow-up question, too.
Okay. I did want to kind of lead with that because we just talked about some of the problems. I think some of the biggest problems some people have with ponds is plants, filtering the water, keeping the plants alive. Because there's this balance between using a chemical to filter the water and then using plants and biologicals to filter the water. So when we get back from the break, Ed, I'd really like you to kind of touch on that subject. And since you kind of been all over the country with ponds, I'm sure you have a good knowledge of different plants that will survive in different regions. So again, Garden America, we're talking with Ed Beaulieu, the pond professor.
You bet. We're going to take a break, as Tiger mentioned. Happy Saturday, happy weekend, along with John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. I'm Brian Main. Thank you for tuning in. Those on Facebook Live, those on Biz Talk Radio. And again, Facebook Live, questions, comments for our guest or one of us, always available right there in the comments section. And again, those on Biz Talk Radio, feel free to tune in every Saturday right here. Go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. You can interact live. Going to take a break. Speaking of Biz Talk Radio, back after these messages. All righty, we have returned from the break. We appreciate those tuning in every week on Biz Talk Radio. And, of course, our faithful followers, our faithful viewers, listeners on Facebook Live. We continue. We're going to be talking about ponds this morning. And, again, I guess we're going to get into the filtration, what plants can survive, some of the best ways to keep that pond looking its best, Tiger.
Yeah, Ed. So, thank you for joining us this morning. And I think most people, when they think of ponds, they do think of plants in life. So what are some tips that you have for people when it comes to plants and ponds?
So I think the biggest thing with plants, so the nice thing about aquatic plants, there's an incredible variety and diversity of plants that are available. The beauty of them is they don't require, obviously, watering. So once you put them in a pond, they have all the water that they need. So the key is to make sure that they have the right sun exposure and or shade, depending upon the species. But the other thing is the depth of the water. So the most of the plants that are available in the water feature industry are going to be available at what we call marginal plants. So that means that they're going to be in anywhere from 8 inches to right just having their feet just damp. Like a ½ inch deep. So that's where most of those plants are going to be in that range. So the challenge is a lot of people, when they're digging a pond, they might have water that's too deep, and then, unfortunately, the plant will not survive. So you have to pay attention to the depth of the water that they're going into. So the other thing is water lilies. So water lilies are going to be, that's a completely submerged plant. It's going to grow from 18 inches of depth up to about 4 feet of depth. For most of them, they can go a little bit more than that, but I like to keep them in that range. Now, water lilies, those are the jewels of the water garden. So they're going to have those beautiful lily pads floating on the surface. That's where you're going to see the little frogs and things like that hanging out on top of them, as well as dragonflies and things. But the floating flowers are very unique in the perennial world. So this is a perennial plant. It will come back year after year. But what's unique about them is they'll start flowering early on in the season. So they'll start flowering in June, and they'll go all the way to October. So that is very unique in the garden world. It's very hard to find a flowering plant that's going to flower for many, many months over the entire season. So I think they are spectacular. And the beauty of the water lilies is not only do they kind of spread out and create that beautiful Monet garden type of a look, but they also help to shade the water underneath, which is going to keep the water a little bit cooler for your fish. You might not think about that too much, but in a backyard water garden scenario, you're usually not going very deep or, a huge volume of water. So in certain parts of the country, you can get elevated water temperatures. So I always recommend going in with water lilies in that type of a situation because it will create a shady area for your fish to get out of the intense sun. It'll keep those water temperatures a little bit cooler, which is good for the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, and so in terms of, sun, shade, just like any other plant then, regions. So can water lilies survive pretty much anywhere, or is it only specific areas like, in terms of the coldness or hotness of a region?
They can. So I have water lilies from South Florida all the way up to Edmonton, Canada.
Oh, wow.
Now, there are different species that are going to survive. So water lilies is a very generic term. So there are certain species that are found in sub-equatorial areas, of the Amazon basin and things like that. So those plants are not going to survive year-round in Chicago, but you can bring them indoors. You overwinter them. You're going to actually take them out of the water. You're going to actually take the entire tuber out, and you're going to try to clean it off and wrap it up and put it in a cool, dry space until springtime. And that tuber has all the energy and everything inside of it, so that would allow you to replant it. Some people just treat those tropical lilies almost like annuals, and they just replant them every year. So it's up to the individual person and what your goals are for the future. I prefer to have a blend of hardy plants that are going to come back year after year in my designs, and then I like to kind of blend in just a little bit of that tropical, that color, that little bit of an exotic flavor to it, just to take it to the next level.
So just like almost any other kind of planting bed, you have your bones of your pond, you have your perennial plants that are there year after year, but then it's always nice to add that pop of color. So depending on the season, just like any other planting bed, you use annuals or perennials in those areas to kind of add. So that's what you do with a pond then, huh?
It's exactly what I do. And talking about the marginals, we've been talking about the water lilies, but those marginal plants, what I love about them is they create that beautiful transition from the water into the surrounding garden space. So I want to try to dissolve that barrier. So I want it to kind of seem almost mysterious, almost like you would find something out in nature, where all of a sudden the water just turns into vegetation, and then it goes from those beautiful aquatic plants directly into the terrestrial planting. So you kind of have that seamless transition. Some of my favorite plants for doing something like that, irises have been a staple in the water garden industry forever. They're very, very, very durable. They could actually grow in shallow water up to about 8 to 12 inches of water depth. They have just a spectacular variety of different types of colors of foliage as well as flowers. Very, very durable. And again, they will grow all the way from the tropical areas all the way up into, a zone 3 up in Canada. So you could find a good mixture of plants. A few others that I really love are pickerel rush. I love arrowhead. It kind of gives it that little bit of that natural flavor. I'm always trying to get native plants in as much as possible, just to help with the overall biodiversity of the surrounding area. So for the dragonflies and all the pollinators and things like that, I think it's very, very important. And one of the things that I really want to stress, that area that I'm talking about right now, that riparian zone, a riparian zone is literally the area where the water meets the land. It's the most biologically diverse habitat on planet Earth. More species of plants and animals, mammals, all different types of a wide variety of wildlife requires that area for some part of their survival. So for nesting, for food, for shelter, etc. So I think it's very, very important, especially in today's world, when we've seen kind of an unfortunate decline in a lot of our native aquatic ecosystems. So we could actually create these little backyard oases, which are very important to the local environment.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I mean, people think, native plants, and, we're from San Diego here, so they think, drought-tolerant native plants. But there's, like you say, a lot of areas that are either like seasonal ponds or bog-like situations where that riparian zone of native plants, and you have them all over the country. You could have, I just was in Flagstaff and, parts of Arizona and New Mexico. They still have to have those areas because there are seasonal ponds, seasonal areas where there's bogs or whatever. And like you say, the animals and the life in those areas depend on that annually to reproduce or get their food or get their water. And so there's all kinds of native plants that would survive in that area.
Absolutely.
Which kind of will lead us to the next question. I think we have about 2 minutes before we have to take our next break, Ed. But I did want to kind of lead into the next question because talking about ponds, drought is something that's across the country on everybody's mind. But ponds are not necessarily super water users. And there's a lot of pond styles that can lend towards a drought environment, right?
That's correct. Yeah, there is a wide variety of different options that are available that will suit any type of a region.
And what are some of the things that people can do if maybe they are in a dry region and then they want to have a pond still?
So in a dry type of a region, what I try to do is, again, we want to try to have it in a shady and not a windy area. So you want to try to position it properly. So ponds, any type of water. So we almost need to back up a second. When we look at our Earth, it is a water-based planet. It is mostly blue. So our backyard ponds are still part of the hydrologic cycle. So whenever I'm thinking a drought-stricken area, I want to try to incorporate a rainwater capture system in with the overall design. So what I can do with that is I could take water off of the roof of a building, or I could take water off of a patio or any type of an impervious hard surface. I'm going to reroute that water into an underground reservoir.
Hey, Ed, I don't want to cut you off too bad, but we do have to take that break now. When we get back, we'll continue right where you left off with capturing that rainwater.
Yeah, keep that train of thought going, Ed, because we're getting into the meat of what we're talking about here and don't want to leave anything out. Those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, so we appreciate you tuning in this morning. We are going to take a break, have to stay on time for our friends at the network. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco. Thank you for tuning in to Garden America as we break for Biz Talk Radio. Welcome back to the show. Those on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of hour number 1. We've got news coming up top of the hour. We return. It's 2 hours on Biz Talk Radio. We come back at 6 minutes after. In the meantime, as we talk about ponds and everything that goes with it this morning, we had to interrupt Ed Tiger, so let's get back to it and pick up our momentum.
Yeah, we're talking with the pond professor, Ed Beaulieu, and before the break, he was describing how to capture rainwater and then put it into a basin and then filter it into your pond. Is that what you were working on there, Ed?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was discussing. So I try to do a water budget for my projects. So I'll evaluate the impervious surfaces on the property, and then what I can do is for every 1,000 square feet, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. So 1,000 square feet of roof surface. And now the average home in the United States has approximately a 3,000 square foot roof. In a 1-inch rain event, 1 inch of rain over 1,000 square feet will generate 620 gallons of runoff from that section. So the average roof in the United States, we're going to get 1,800 gallons of water in a 1-inch rain. Now, in Chicago, we just got hit with 5 inches of rain just last weekend alone. Now, obviously, Midwest, we're a little bit different than San Diego, but you still have a rainy period pretty much everywhere in the United States where we may get several inches or even up to a foot of rain in a season. So when you start doing the math on something like that, and you start adding up your square footage of roof or patio surface and things like that, you could generate or you can capture thousands of gallons of water from those hard surfaces that would normally be treated basically as a liability, and we try to get it away from the property as quickly as possible through a storm sewer system. So the philosophy is a little bit different. We're going to capture the water. We're going to keep it in an underground reservoir versus an above ground. I prefer going into underground tanks. It keeps the water cooler, versus an above ground tank. Once I have that water captured, now I could recirculate it through my decorative water feature. So I'm using rainwater to run through my system versus city water in a lot of situations. The other beauty about rainwater, it doesn't have chlorine and it doesn't have a lot of other compounds that would normally be found in our drinking water supplies. So that makes it better for the plants and the animals and the different wildlife that I'm going to have in my ecosystem.
And you'd have more oxygen in that rainwater as well, right?
You would definitely have more oxygen in the rainwater. Absolutely. I think, and that is a very, very important piece.
You know, Brian, I was thinking we just got 5 inches of rain in San Diego here too last year.
What is this?
Last year.
What is this rain that everybody is speaking of here?
Did you say there was a follow-up question that needed to get answered, John, or did we
Well,
answer that in the process?
No, we had some listeners that were wondering about, I think this is partially because of retailers. They want to sell all the add-ons they can in a sale, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so they'll push fertilizing or fertilizers for water plants.
Oh, okay.
Is that important, Ed? Do they have to be fertilized? Does it throw off the ecosystem if you're putting fertilizer in the water?
That is a great question, because you have to be very, very conscious of what you're using inside of a water feature. So there are specific formulations for aquatic plants, and the only plants that I really use fertilizer on is in the heavy feeders. So that would be the water lilies. Water lotus is another one that needs a lot of those micronutrients in order to get the vibrant flowers and the lush growth. Now, most of the aquatic, the marginal plants that I was discussing earlier, they really don't need anything if you have fish in the pond. So I think that's the important piece. So if you have fish in your aquatic ecosystem or in your pond system and you're feeding your fish, the waste product from the fish will actually become all the nutrition and the nutrients, so the nitrate and the phosphate and all the little micro elements that would keep the rest of those aquatic plants alive. It's just those heavy feeders that really require a little bit more.
Hey, I just thought of something too. You were telling us about the different types of plants that you should use. I wonder, are there any that you should not use in a home situation? And one of the reasons I bring it up is, well, I always think of people wanting to have the look of cattails.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking maybe those shouldn't be in home ponds, right?
Yeah, you know what? That you bring up a great point. Cattails, there are some modified varieties that are dwarf cattails and miniature cattails that are designed specifically for a backyard water garden. So that'll give you the desired look, but it's not as aggressive. The native cattails are used to having, thousands of acres of space where they could spread out and run. They will completely overtake a backyard water garden, and it is a nightmare to get them back out.
So, Brian, on your patio, you are going to put a pond with swans and cattails. That's not going to work.
I'm going to try it anyway.
Pampas grass.
Hey, do we want to hit this question here, John?
Yeah, John, one of our listeners, is asking your advice on pond filtration. He wants to know if there's anything particular you have to pay attention to, and do you have to keep the water recirculating constantly?
So, another good question. So, the number one piece that I always recommend if you're starting out with a water feature is you should invest in a skimmer system. So a skimmer is basically, it's going to sit on the outside perimeter of the water feature. It's going to house the pump in it, so it allows you access. So I see too often where people will take their submersible pump and they put it way in the middle of the pond, in the deepest location, because they want to turn the water over and everything. But if there's a problem and you will have to maintain the pump, it makes it very difficult to get to it for maintenance processes and procedures. So I like to have the pump located in a skimmer system on the outside perimeter. The other thing that does is it makes the skimmer act as a pre-filter. So if you get leaf debris, lawn clippings, we all have, gardens on our property, and if you have wind-blown debris coming into a water feature, which will happen, the skimmer will draw all that floating debris into a convenient catch basket. If you don't have the skimmer, that material gets waterlogged and it just sinks to the bottom. And as it sinks to the bottom, it starts to decay. And as it decays, it releases dissolved nutrients into the water, which would cause algae issues and water quality problems and things like that. So that's why the number one piece of equipment I would invest in is a good skimmer system for the backyard pond.
All right. Hey, Ed, we are going to have to take another break. And when we get back, we'll continue talking with Ed, the pond professor, about some tips and tricks on your ponds, how to install them, and what you need to do to maintain them.
And those on Biz Talk Radio, we're going to lead you up to the top of the hour with a quick news break. We are back at 6 minutes after. Do stay with us. The rest of you on Facebook Live, a much shorter break, so do stay with us. We're talking to the pond guy. And again, obviously talking about ponds this morning as we wrap things up. Do stay with us. This is Garden America. For those on Biz Talk Radio, heading up to the top of the hour. Stay with us. All righty, welcome back to the show. If you're tuned in on Biz Talk Radio and just joining us, we're talking about ponds this morning with our guest Ed, so we'll bring you up to date. The rest of you on Facebook Live, thank you for hanging in there. This is Garden America, back with John Bagnesco, Tiger Palafox. I'm Brian Main. Tiger, back to you as we continue with a lot of great information this morning.
Yeah, we're chatting with Ed Beaulieu, the pond professor. And before we continue on, Ed, I do just want to mention to our listeners, all kinds of wonderful tips and tricks that you're giving us today. But at the same time, you have a wonderful YouTube channel that covers all the things we've been talking about and even more, with great video tutorials, how-tos, information, and that just Ed the Pond Professor on YouTube, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Ed the Pond Professor on YouTube. I basically showcase all the different projects that I'm just working on a daily basis.
And, and then along with that, at the aquascapeinc.com website, you have your own page there where you have all kinds of wonderful tips and kind of how-to tutorials as well, using those Aquascape products, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So our goal is very simple. Water gardening is an incredible, hobby for anybody. So we want to help people succeed with it. So any way we could help somebody, overcome a challenge or a problem, or even just get them started with, something as simple as a patio bowl, which you can put on a patio or a deck or a balcony or anything like that. Will give you just a little bit of glimpse of aquatic life, and you can add some fish and plants and things like that, which in today's world is kind of a really nice and important getaway from our hectic and chaotic lives.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up a good point, because people think, oh, pond, I don't have the space. I have a condo or too small of a backyard, but you can do something with a small body of water. I mean, Brian, you have one or two fountains.
I've got one fountain.
One fountain in the back.
And a 75-gallon fish tank.
Yeah, that's inside. But, I mean, on your back patio, you have a fountain, and just walking out there with the movement of the water, the sound.
The birds that come and,
I was going to say,
visit.
The life now that also goes into your backyard just because that fountain is there.
They drink the water, they take a bath. It's created its own, I guess, sub-environment out there, too, with what you're mentioning, all the wildlife and the birds that do come by.
And Aquascapes has options for all those people, like you say. It's not just large scale. What were the tortoises that you were working with out there?
Radiated tortoises.
Radiated. It's not just that sounds like
really cool animal.
That actually sounds like something that what Godzilla would be fighting.
and Ed, quickly, what about those turtles? What makes them different? How would we recognize them, and why did you pick that species?
So I was actually working, I was contacted directly by the zoo, and they were looking basically to renovate the habitat for this particular species at their zoo. What they had, and like we talked about earlier, all animals require water in one way, shape, or form, on a daily basis. You go to a zoo and you're going to see a water element in every single enclosure. So the radiated tortoises actually are more of a semi-arid type of a species. They're found in grasslands and things like that. But in Madagascar, just like anywhere else in the world, they do have rainy periods. And during those rainy periods, they have these little stream systems that pop up coming out of the mountains and things like that. And the turtles are going to go to those areas for water. When they have water available, they're going to take advantage of it. So what we wanted to do was to create a miniature riverine type of a system where the turtles could actually go in and they can kind of cool off on the hot Florida days. They can have access to water. And I think what's important is it's a living water system. It's not chlorinated water, because for animals, you know, we're a little bit different. We require chlorine in our water. We require some sort of a something that's going to sterilize the water in order to keep us healthy. Animals, it's the opposite. They need all those microorganisms. They need life inside of their water because that more closely replicates their natural habitat. So we wanted to create a system that was not, it was, the system that they had was filled up with chlorinated water on a daily basis. So I wanted to recreate a riverine system that was recirculating using a rainwater capture system that was going to have healthy water for these turtles that would be able to, it was basically a self-sustaining type of a system.
Wow.
Hey, let us know when you start working with snapping turtles, will you?
Actually, I have multiple projects with snapping turtles, now that you mention it. So I do actually have some of those.
Oh, goodness. Watch out for those ones. Well, and wow, lots of great information.
Yeah, right?
You know, and like I say, you know, aquascapeinc.com for more information on the products, but your YouTube channel, such fun videos too. I mean, you know, you it seems like you have a lot of fun making those videos, Ed.
Yeah, I really do. You know, I think it is. It's a, like I said, it's a fun hobby. There's always unique challenges, and I love the entire process that starts from the design phase, figuring out what animals I'm going to work with. And then I kind of work backwards through it to figure out the right filtration system and the right plant material and what the overall look and feel of the system will be. So it's actually highly dynamic, and I've worked on everywhere from far Australia. I've been in Africa. I've been in Europe. I've been in Canada, United States, South America. So I've done projects all over the world, and they all are very unique to me, even though they're basically, people would consider them the same thing as a water garden, but each one of them is highly unique.
Yeah. Did we answer all of the questions, I think?
We did. There's a couple that we can take care of after Ed's gone. We don't want to keep them too long.
Yeah. But, yeah, thank you very much, Ed. Have a great rest of the weekend. And, yeah, you know, I'll talk to you off the show. We'll have you on again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different styles of ponds that we can cover.
Maybe we should have Ed in studio so that after the show he could come by my house and help me design my pond.
I was going to say, you know, you have that creek running right through your backyard. So, all right, Ed. Well, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the weekend. Good chatting.
Likewise. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Don't you, when you talk to somebody like Ed, don't you just get excited to want to do whatever it is they're talking about?
well,
Yeah, he just wind him up and he goes.
Well, I was thinking for you, John, you have that creek that runs through your, what do you call it, your tree pit,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you can make a little thing right off of that.
And it would
That's
circulate.
a
by
long-term
itself.
Goal, though.
Yeah.
Right now, in back of the guest house, we've got a hillside that comes down to an area where I'd really love to have a pond.
Yeah.
Waterfall and a pond.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. Oh, so you're
I'll tell
talking
you-
about actually creating like
Yeah.
something that does recirculate. and
Just
all
running
that.
our little fountain in the patio, just the sense of like it's not necessarily cool or cold, but it gives you that sense. It's very
Yeah.
relaxing. It's very tranquil.
Yeah.
Even during the heat wave, it was nice to have it on. So,
Carla wanted to know about mosquito control.
Right.
And she's got it sounds like a whiskey barrel type water pond or feature in her backyard. She wants to know if she should use mosquito fish or what about mosquito dunks.
Right.
I think mosquito dunks really would be the best thing to use. They're not a chemical. It's trying to think now. It's Bacillus israeliensis,
Right.
correct?
Yep.
So it's a bacteria, and they're really easy to use.
Oh,
And if you can't find them locally, you just go on to Amazon and order them.
yeah. And you just break off the chunk based on the size of the water that you have and drop it in there. And I think they usually last for about 30 days or so is what they say. So,
yeah, we were talking about that the other day with somebody. Just, the standing water. Even if you have a plant and you have a catcher, the water in that even can draw mosquitoes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. They say, what is it, like a little cap full of water? You can have a bunch of mosquitoes drawing out
What
of
do you
that.
call those the dishes under the pots?
Yeah,
You put
saucers.
Yeah, the
Saucers.
Yeah, you know.
Same thing you call the ones under your coffee cups.
Are you sure?
Yeah, teacups. They're called saucers.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So yeah, mosquitoes, like you said,
There are
even
flying
a
varieties
capful
too,
can
but
breed
that's
anywhere.
something different.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Flying varieties of saucers.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do a show on that next
Hey,
time.
our tech guy Daniel was all excited about the ponds and the turtles, and he's going to put Ninja Turtles in his.
I think it's a great idea.
He needs a sewer for that.
It's a wonderful idea. We've got about a minute to go. We should probably take a break now. We're so close to break time here. So that's what we're going to do for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Those on Facebook Live, we're back even quicker. Do stay with us. It is open right now for your questions, your comments. You're going to be taking off, right, Tiger?
Yeah. I've got a soccer game.
John and I are going to be taking the rest of the show, so do stay with us. Happy weekend. Welcome to your Saturday. This is Garden America. Okay, we are back, and for those on Facebook Live, you got to see Tiger exit the building as he walked out the studio. I don't think he walked out in a huff, John. He seemed pretty happy, but he does have.
No, he was not in a huff.
He does have a soccer game with his youngest today,
Isaac.
So Tiger's back with us next week. So John, you and me right now, buddy, or should I say you and I, whatever the correct
And
English
what kind
is.
of animals do you want to talk about?
Animals?
Yeah.
How about unicorns? How much can you give me on a unicorn right now?
Who was it? The Irish Rovers that sang that song?
The Irish Rovers, yeah.
Yeah.
Unicorn. That's very good. Yeah, that was that one-hit wonder for the Irish Rovers.
I was trying to think. Oh, I told you and Tiger that I potted up my rose seedlings. They
How many?
were in little community pots, where I put the seeds in.
But how many did you do, you said?
And so I had to separate each
Yeah.
one. And I now have 101 new rose seedlings.
Wow.
So they all got fertilized, their own little pots, and we'll see what happens. Can't wait to see them bloom.
And then what other projects are you working on? You're getting ready for the auction coming up on October 30th.
Oh, my gosh. That keeps getting bigger and bigger, too. It's in Oceanside. And again, details are on ccrsauction.com.
California Coastal Rose Society. And it's also going to be in conjunction with another show or other people that are going to be there?
The auction's going to be in conjunction with the Rose Show from the San Diego Rose Society. So there'll be a show and an auction. It's a 2-day event. On Sunday, we're hoping to have a birthday cake and celebrate the 94th birthday of Marion Ross.
Okay.
She had a new rose named after her, the actress who played the mother on Happy Days.
And so many other roles in TV as well.
Yeah.
I caught her in an old episode of Perry Mason.
Oh, really?
Recently, yes.
Huh.
Yes. Very young, probably in her 20s at the time, late 50s.
I catch a lot of people on Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, right?
They have a lot of
appearances.
Right. And it's usually people at the end of their career. And sometimes you'll have somebody at the beginning of their career who doesn't even get credit.
Right.
But matter of fact, last night we watched, who was it? Was it Jane the Plumber?
Oh.
Who did the Comet commercials?
Yes. She did movies with Shirley Temple.
Jane Withers, right?
Jane Withers, I believe. Right,
Yeah.
right. Best known to a lot of other generations as the plumber.
Right.
Who comes into the kitchen and fixes everything.
Yeah.
And so you saw her in that role, right?
Right. Yeah. And there was also an older actress, Maureen O'Brien, was in that one. So it's fun to watch those shows.
If you want to see or watch episodes where you see a lot of up-and-comers who either had not made it yet or were well on their way to making it, The Twilight Zone, that's another one as well, where you'll see Robert Redford's, those people back when they were just getting started.
Right. William Shatner,
who's 90, I think he's 92 this year.
Is he really?
Yeah. He's still going. We should have him down. Name a rose after him. The Shatner rose.
Hastam said that he really liked the guests, so that was nice.
Uh-oh, you've got a question from your daughter.
Well, my son and I bought her some peonies for her, and I never remember her email. I was going to forward her a copy of what she was getting so she could look at it. But for her birthday, we bought her some peonies, and I think they said they were shipping the 1st of October, but I'm not sure.
Oh, well, that's not until...
Yeah, but she doesn't know that because she hasn't seen the...
Oh, okay.
All she did was get a text that said we sent them to her for her birthday. So happy birthday, Gina. And I always think I'm starting to get to the age where I think of my daughter as about the age of my granddaughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How old's your granddaughter now?
Like she's, my gosh, 12?
What?
She just had a birthday.
12?
Yeah.
Where have I been the last 12 years?
I don't know. Did I
Goodness
get that right?
gracious.
Gina, is Kendall 12?
Yeah, let us know, Gina. I didn't think she was that old. Wow.
Sometimes you get your facts confused as you get older. September 12th was my daughter's birthday. So I'm starting to think, there's a 12 somewhere. She's 11.
She's 11. Well, you're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Good
Yeah,
for you,
I was
John.
thinking of next year she's going to be 12.
Right, I got you. Yeah.
Anyway, I had a hard time picking out peonies for my daughter because my daughter has a monochromatic garden. So everything's got to be shades of white. I think she calls it a moon garden.
Now, what kind of garden did you say that was again?
Monochromatic.
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
One color.
Just one, okay, yeah, it's like mono, like in audio.
Yeah,
mono is one channel.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the what was her name now? Vita Sackville West at Sissinghurst in England. She was famous for her monochromatic gardens, and the most famous one was the white garden. Mm-hmm. So when you go into this garden, everything is shades of white and grays, some grays in there too, and of course green because you have to have some plants that have green leaves. But I remember I've seen that garden twice, and the first time I saw it was later in the summer, and I thought, this is really no big deal.
Mm-hmm. Until
the second time we went, it was
right.
early in the spring, and everything was in full bloom, and it was mind-blowing. It was spectacular.
And by the way, how are your chickens?
It's funny you should ask that because my son thinks we have plenty of chickens. We get
how many do you have?
Plenty of eggs. I think there's about 10.
Okay.
But I like chicks. I like little baby chicks, right?
Sure.
But he never lets them brood. But now he's on a job working in Miami for a month. So I told one of the hens, I said, you know what? You want to sit on those eggs? Go ahead.
He's not here. He's gone for a month.
He's not here, right. So I think that when he comes back, we might have some baby chicks.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And you're getting plenty of eggs?
Oh, too many eggs.
Wow. We'll bring him in here.
I could.
Yeah, we'll take him home. Absolutely.
I spent all summer. My wife and my son had some raised beds, and they planted what they assumed were going to be vegetable gardens. And it's almost like one of the reasons I don't want a dog is not that I don't like dogs, but I just don't have time to take care of it.
What about trampling all over your...
Well, that too, depending on the size of the dog.
Right.
But the problem with these vegetable gardens is the same thing. I didn't want to do these raised beds because I didn't have time to take care of them.
Sure.
And I knew neither one of them was going to take care of them, right?
Yeah.
So the tomatoes, so far not a single tomato. 3 plants took up an entire bed. They're coming out the ends of the bed. We did get 2 peppers, which no one ate. But we've now got 6 watermelon. So we picked the first 2 watermelons, and I have trouble with tasting anyway, but to me they were insipid.
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
We've got a couple of questions. Sue's got a question about roses and pots outdoors. So for those on the Facebook Live, whatever your question, your comment might be, go ahead and post it right there, as Sue and many others have done this morning. We're going to take a break. Tiger had to take off for his son's soccer game. We have 2 more segments coming up if you're keeping track on Biz Talk Radio, so do stay with us. It is Garden America. Happy weekend. Thank you for joining us. Go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Check it out. We appreciate you and the traffic that you would generate on our website. I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco, back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, we have returned back on Garden America. Hope you're having a good day. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. And again, we'll pick up the pieces here, John, with Sue's question and anybody else that we might have missed.
Let's see. Well, first, Carla commented that she took some cuttings of her snow cone rose because mine died.
Yours died?
Mine died, and Carla was nice enough to try to root a cutting for me. So,
what color is a snow cone rose?
White.
Just like we talked about.
Yeah. Like a shave ice rose, except different.
As white as a Pope John Paul?
Yeah, except that the roses are little small flowers in a cluster, almost like a little pyramid, like a snow cone.
Okay.
So if you picture the top of a snow cone, that's what this would look like.
Hey, as far as you know right now, what will be the rarest rose in the auction that we'll be doing on Sunday?
And when you say Sunday, you mean
That's a
October
live
30th.
Auction. Yeah, October 30th,
Right.
the live auction
Right.
that
We
we'll
don't
be
want
involved
anybody
with.
showing up tomorrow. Right now, the rarest rose would be the Joanna Millar rose.
And do you expect that will be the highest bidding rose?
No.
Oh.
No. The reason it's the rarest rose is, to my knowledge, there's only 2 in the United States. And we've told the story about that rose before, but it's an interesting rose. And the other one is in Virginia at Joanna's stepson's house. He has an old, he has a bed and breakfast in Virginia. So, as a matter of fact, just got an email from him yesterday.
The only 2 places where you can find that rose.
That's right. Let's see. Did you say we had another question?
I thought we did. Oh,
it was Sue. Sue
and
says,
also Lenore's got a question as well. Go ahead.
okay, Sue says that she has miniature roses in pots outdoors, and they're doing really well, but she wants to know what to fertilize. If they're roses in pots, get some Osmocote, and you put them in, fertilize them twice a year, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything else. And the nice thing about using Osmocote in pots, it's a time-release fertilizer, and as you water, some of the nutrients will leach into the root zone so the plants can use it. But if you have a plant in pot, you're watering them all the time.
Right.
And the more you water, the more you're going to leach the soil out, and plants are going to be starving. So unless you want to fertilize every 2 weeks, I would just put in the Osmocote.
And let's see.
And then she wants to know about low-growing camellia. There is a ground cover camellia that gets to be about 2 to 3 feet tall, and Monrovia Nursery grows it. If you go to their website, I can't remember the name of it right now, but you'll see. And then also any of the Sasanqua camellias. Sasanqua camellias are also known as the sun camellia, because they'll tolerate more sun, but of course they also grow in the shade. And a lot of the varieties of sun camellias will stay shorter. So look up varieties of Sasanqua camellias, and then that ground cover camellia, which would be kind of cool.
And then Lenore's got a question. I don't think we covered that yet.
Lenore says that her cukes and cantaloupes lost all their leaves. Is that normal? You know, most plants will lose their leaves when they're dead. So it's normal in that sense.
And it's very hot where she lives.
Yeah,
right?
she lives in canyon country. And the only thing that you can do when we have those hot temperatures is put a shade cloth over them and make sure that they stay watered. But if they've lost all their leaves, as the weather's cooling off now, they might come back, and sometimes they'll come back for another crop, but I would say probably not for the cantaloupes. It's too late. You might get a few more cucumbers, but it's hard to say. Oh, Carla says that, Gina says that the snow cone sounds like a good rose for her garden.
Of course, right?
Yeah, because
White
it's
color.
white.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said it reminds her of an oak leaf hydrangea. You know, I never thought of that, but it does. The mophead hydrangeas, or what people normally think of as a hydrangea, are those big round balls, right?
Exactly.
But the oak leaf hydrangeas have pyramidal flower clusters. They look like that, Brian. So the snow cone rose does remind me of that. The other thing about the snow cone rose is somebody told me that they planted it next to some steps going up a hill, and that as the rose grew, it was putting out branches that went down the hill, and everywhere that it hit, it rooted. So eventually, all along these steps going up a hill, it was loaded with snow cone roses.
Gina wants to know when she should harvest celery seed.
Celery seed? Why? I don't
didn't
know.
ask the question.
I don't know if I've ever seen celery go to seed. And why would you want to harvest it?
I don't know.
I don't know. Do you use celery seed in cooking?
I never have.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I think it's one of those things, those spices that you get, though.
Oh, maybe, huh?
You know how you have a whole jar of things that you never use? I think celery seed might be one of those.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Hastam says we should talk one show
Indoor
about
plants?
indoor plants. And you know what? We were talking prior to the show that research just came out and showed that California is the state where the people are second most likely to kill their indoor plants.
And I don't know what that is based on or why that would be true. Nebraska's number one.
Nebraska's number one, but California's really close behind. I think I can think of some reasons that might be possible. One is you've got so much going on outdoors in California that you don't spend a lot of time and you're not looking
It's
at them.
secondary because you don't really need to have houseplants unless
Right.
you really want to.
If you're in Montana and there's 10 feet of snow outside, you're going to be looking at those
You're going
plants
to pay
all
more
the time.
attention to houseplants.
Yeah. You do. You have so many plants in pots that I think you probably pay attention to your house plants too, right? Because it's all part of the same thing.
I have to admit that I'm trying to think how many live houseplants we really have.
I like that you said, I'm not trying to think of how many houseplants I have, but how many live houseplants I have.
As opposed to the
Silk.
silk and the other ones, which, by the way, look very real. They look very good. They're not the cheapies. But we have cats, and they chew on everything. I even catch them chewing on the silks, and I try to explain it's not real. What are you getting out of that? You're just trying to irritate me.
Lenore wants to know if tomatoes damaged by heat will come back.
That depends too, right?
Yeah, because tomatoes are perennial plants,
Yeah.
they're more likely to come back. It just depends on how long the fall is before it gets cold. But it's possible.
You know, celery seed is good on. Hold on, here we just had a response to that. Where did that go?
And what to use celery seed for?
Yeah, it's good on soup, salad, marinades, on barbecue.
Really?
That's from Darlene. Thank you, Darlene. That means John is not convinced yet, totally.
Well, you know, I've grown all kinds of vegetables, and celery is one of those things that you can go to the store and for $1 you can buy a head of celery,
As much as you want.
or you can wait months and invest tens of twenties of dollars into growing your own. And why?
Celery and peanut butter, John.
Plus, it has to be blanched if you grow it outside. Celery grown outdoors is really bitter.
So you have to blanch it?
Yeah. And
Yar, Blanche, yar.
the way that they usually blanch it is they'll take, well, now I don't know where you get newspaper, but you would take newspaper and you would wrap it, tie the celery together, and then wrap it around the side. And it would lose some of its chlorophyll and become more tender. But yeah, it's one of those vegetables that just seems like it's too much trouble.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We have one more segment coming up. Tiger's off to a soccer game. It's yours truly, Brian Main, along with John Bagnasco. Again, one more segment for our friends on Biz Talk Radio and, of course, Facebook Live. So those on Facebook Live, continue with those questions or comments as we continue on your weekend. Happy Saturday. I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco. This is Garden America. Okay, we are back. This is it, our final segment on your weekend, Saturday morning. And again, it's Brian Main, John Bagnasco. Tiger took off to a soccer game with his son, so we're going to wrap things up here for the next 7 minutes or so on Garden America, getting a lot of comments and reaction on celery seed, John, on Facebook Live, and that's exactly what we like.
Since we're talking about celery seed, their gardening know-how has an article on saving celery seeds and how to harvest them. So you would probably get more information there than you would from us.
Well, that's a good way of saying, you know what, if you really want to know about this, just go to this website.
Yeah. Did you say one of our listeners mentioned that they grow a lot of celery?
Yeah, Darlene's daughter grows lots of celery, and they eat it.
You know, if you're using...
Does it have negative calories? Have you heard that?
Well, yeah, I've heard that you use more calories chewing it than you get from it.
It's all water, right?
Yeah.
I like celery with peanut butter. It's great. Or chopped up fine when I'm mixing up a tuna
What
for
do they
tuna
call
salad
that?
sandwich.
Ants on a log?
Ants on a log.
Yeah.
Oh,
They put peanut butter on celery and then a raisin.
yes. Ants on a log, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. But again, chopped up celery with onions, pickle relish in a tuna sandwich, some onions, mayo, you're good to go.
Celery seed's supposed to help with digestion and appetite.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I guess it's one of the areas I've been deficient in my years on this earth. I have to study more about celery.
How can we sow rose seed to grow? Let's see. Do you see the question I'm stumbling through there, John, right above Gina? How's Tom?
Yeah, he wants to know, first of all, about growing roses from seed,
Okay.
whether or not they'll come true to the variety. No, there's no chance they will come true to the variety unless it's a species of rose. Rose species will, come pretty much true. But all the hybrids that are grafted, if you grow the seed, you'll come up with something new.
You don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you're going to get, and that's how they get new roses. And to be honest, when I sowed my rose seeds, all I did was wait for the hips to ripen. I cleaned the seeds out of the hips, and then I planted them and left them outdoors, and they came up. And I live in a warm climate. If you're in a cold climate, they're going to do even better because they really prefer a cold treatment. So if you can plant them, I would say probably closer to the first part of winter, and just leave them outdoors. They'll come up in the spring. If you're in a warm climate where it doesn't get cold, you'll probably have better luck if you chill them, put them in the refrigerator for about 2 months, and then plant them after that. That's one of the reasons, I think we've mentioned this on the show before, but one of the reasons why there are no roses native to the southern hemisphere.
Oh, that's right.
And
We talked about that a long time ago.
yeah, and it's because they need a cold treatment in order to
too
bloom.
warm.
Yeah, and so they never make it across the equator. So I guess they all started in the northern hemisphere.
Would make sense, yeah. Huh. Okay, Gina's reaction on blanching.
That's why she has celery seed. Okay, yeah, she didn't know about blanching. Okay, so she harvested and thought
Right.
yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is bitter, and so it does need to be blanched. The flower seed or the flowers of celery remind me of the flowers of parsley, because again, in our non-successful attempt at a vegetable garden this year, parsley was something else we planted, and no one's used it, and it's going to seed right now, and it kind of reminds me of Queen Anne's lace, that type of umbel.
I like that word, umbel.
Yeah. Let's see, who else do we have here?
We might be caught up, John.
Oh, good.
Might be caught up.
All right. I was going to ask you how your tomatoes did. We didn't
Fine.
talk a lot about it.
Great.
You grew just cherry tomatoes?
Cherry tomatoes.
And those were the ones Tiger brought you?
I mean, we picked them all summer.
Really?
Out there working in the patio, picking a few, eating them, bringing them in the house. They're so sweet. Just had wonderful, wonderful harvest and crop this year.
Do you remember the variety?
I don't. I should write it down. Should stick it right there in the pot.
You
like
should.
Everything else, You think you're going to remember? Oh, I'll remember that. I might have it written down someplace. I might have it on my phone.
Did you mine died because I didn't take care of it, but Tiger gave us each.
Mine died because I didn't take. That's good. I'm glad you admitted that.
Yeah. I have lots of things die because I don't take care of them. The Tiger gave us each a variegated pepper. Is yours
Sweet
still
aperitif and Tasmanian chocolate.
Oh, Tasmanian chocolate's not a cherry tomato.
No, but we didn't have very good luck with that at all.
Yeah.
And neither did Tiger.
Really?
Yeah. They would start to grow and then just kind of wither away. Anyway.
But sweet aperitif
Oh,
for years was the world's sweetest tomato.
very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
We've got about a minute to go to wrap up any last-minute business, John. Stay on time with our good friends at the network.
Lenore just planted cilantro.
I grew cilantro a few years ago in the veggie pod.
You did?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
you had a
very
great
good.
crop of it.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Very
I can't
good.
eat cilantro. I never could. Some people are semi-allergic to it. And
Give me a bean burrito with onions and cilantro.
yeah, cilantro is...
Grilled onions, grilled O's.
Uh,
Hey, I
I'm
think
getting
that's
a
going to do it.
stomach ache just listening to you.
But you can't taste or smell. What does it matter? But the thought of it, right? You remember.
No, I can taste.
Oh.
I can taste. I can't taste things the way they're supposed to taste. And
I can't taste what I smell.
well, the problem is what I smell is what things taste like now, and they're both bad.
Okay. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Garden America. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget to go to our website, visit our website right there at gardenamerica.com. We are streaming. We are digital. We've got the podcast going on the iHeart platform. We've also got our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. But again, do visit our website at gardenamerica.com.
We'll be back next week, right?
What's that?
We'll be back next
We're
week.
coming back next week, and Tiger's going to be here for the whole show.
Oh, wow.
How about that? A real treat. For the entire crew, Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, I'm Brian Main. Take care, be safe. We'll
And
see
get
you again
growing,
next week.
America.
Next week, like John said. So get growing, America. Be good. Bye.
I'm gonna go first. Go ahead. So people, I guess they forget what happened to